Here's a clip from the Land Podcast, and I'm speaking with Lance Matthews, and we discuss some of the misconceptions of a buyer's agent and why it is important to have someone in your corner going up to bat for you. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Here we go. Having a buyer's agent in your corner was really influential in you ending up finding a parcel that checked off enough boxes.
Yeah, so I look back just for the fun of it. I look back at our email chain, and I think there was 78 emails back and forth between him and I over a month and a half. What ended up kind of leaning toward, I found a property that was being sold from Whitetail Properties, and I'd sent it to him kind of like, oh, it's Whitetail Properties, it's probably overpriced. Like that had just been the stigma that I had of that company. Not that I have been in the market that long to say one way or the other, but it just seemed like they were always high dollar and they're always like turnkey, like ready to go. And that wasn't what I wanted. I wanted something that I could put a little sweat equity in and make it my own. And so I sent it over to him, and he's like, oh, it looks really nice. And this is like a couple miles from where I went to high school. So he knew the area, he knew some of the neighbors, he knew there was big deer in the area. And I was like, okay, this could be good. Let's set up a showing. So convinced my wife that this was a good idea, because I knew if I go to a showing, if I get my feet on the ground, this could happen. And he's like, all right, let's go for Wednesday or whatever. We're set up, we're getting ready to go. And he sends me a text like, oh, my wife has COVID, so maybe I shouldn't go. And I was like, oh, well, if you test negative, whatever, get out there, let's go check this out. I don't want anything getting in the way. And he's like, well, there's 4 other showings that day. This had been the second or third day it was on the market. I called the listing agent and just kind of got some ideas, why is this guy selling? Give me some information about it. Just kind of picked his brain, playing dumb. And then I didn't even tell him that I was going to look at the property, but showed up, kind of laced the boots up, and there's some trucks there, and I'm driving around the area. And that was actually pretty helpful. Taking a couple loops around within a few miles of the area and just kind of learning, what does this look like? There was a section of public right by, or adjacent to it, that I really wanted to know more about, because I was a little apprehensive of that, just because hunting public, I know some of these places can get pounded pretty good, especially in a county that I think 95% of the county is private. So
one little sliver of public.
Yeah, so I know that these lands get hit pretty hard. So I was like, what does this land look like? Is it huntable? That kind of thing. It looked pretty gnarly. I like a good challenge, but I don't know that I have the skill set to kill a big deer in this public spot. So I was like, all right, I like the looks of that, and kind of got on the ground, and Tyler met me there, and we kind of just got walking, studied the maps too many hours before, just to know this is where I want to check out. This is what I want to look at. What does this actually look like from the ground? Just because it looks quite a bit different. So try to walk every inch or as fast as I could through the property in our hours time slot that we had. It didn't seem like that hour time slot was really hard and fast, but in my mind, I thought it was. So I was in a little bit of a hurry. I wish I would have taken more video, more
to show
pictures.
Your wife, or to go back and look again yourself?
Yeah, she was interested, but she was like, oh, it's a piece of land. That's a tree. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
But because the listing was actually really good. It had a lot of drone footage and some stuff, but where I was looking, I wanted a memory of it to be able to kind of go back. Either way, long story short, kind of walk through. I was like, yes, this is the property. I want to put in an offer, but I was nervous because there was a bunch of other people that had been walking through the same day. And this was midweek, so I was worried about it getting to the weekend. Kind of that's where Tyler really helped me out, because he's like, well, earnest money says a lot about your offer and how serious you are. Your conditions, how quickly do they need to turn this around, and how close to the asking price are you going to hit, and what is land going for in that area? And he kind of had those facts I'd been watching land, but he knew exactly that land, and he knew what was selling and what wasn't, and he knew that the property was going to sell. He ended up kind of writing something up, kind of sent it over, and we ended up putting 5% down for earnest money. the offer was like slightly over asking. So it was like a couple thousand over asking, just because I was like, I think just a little bit of that and just get this in here and see what they say. If nothing else, they'll counter.
Mm-hmm.
And they accepted like a day later.
How much sleep did you get that night?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was at first I was like, I really want this land. Am I hurrying up like too much? Am I rushing this?
Are you forcing it? That's something I always ask myself. This was the
first one I walked on.
Yeah.
So I was like, are there a bunch of these other properties that I should have got my boots on the ground with? And I was like, no, this is 2 hours from my house. This is perfect. Like, this is what I want. It has a lot of potential. It had a bunch of pine trees on it, which were kind of less than ideal, because I was like, oh, I want diversity. And 19 acres out of 37 in pine, in white pine, is like not diverse.
Sure.
Looking at like the map and like the general neighborhood, this was one of the like few pine stands in the area. So I was like, okay, well, pine can be good, like some thermal cover, and I can take those pines down, and what kind of regeneration are we going to have underneath? So I just kind of like waited, got the offer, just kind of went on to the next steps, I guess.
Yeah. So that sounded a lot happened in a short amount of time. That's kind of what, I mean, you were looking for a while. I wouldn't, like, I know that was the first property you walked, but from the sounds of it, you did a deep dive on a bunch of them prior. Would that be accurate?
Yeah. Some of the mapping software online is just incredible. Like, looking at historical pictures, like what was there in the 30s, like, and seeing when these pines were planted, like knowing the value of pine, like in that area and that kind of stuff, like ahead of time was helpful. And seeing like soil, like I want to be able to plant food plots on this. Like I'm looking at, I think it's like acres.co or something like that.
Yeah.
Just a cool website that has like soil quality. So a few properties I like punched in on there, and it's like, oh, that one doesn't have that great of soil. And then this one actually had like a couple of good areas, and then a few that I was like, oh, that's really bad in that area. But turns out like there's some big rock faces, which wasn't terrible because it kind of like funnels the deer into certain spots, and you can kind of use that. Yeah, the homework on the front end was, I like that part of it. Like that's the fun. But then getting onto the ground and being like, okay, this is here.
Hope you guys enjoyed this. My name is Jake Hofer, and I'm a real estate agent out of the state of Illinois, and it's my goal to help 100 people buy their first farm. Been doing that with the Land Podcast and clips like this every single Thursday and Saturday that are released here on the channel. And to be one of those 100 people, all you have to do is, if you're in the state of Illinois and I can help you, I'd be happy to do so. Number two, if you want to get connected with someone that can help you, reach out and I'll be happy to get you in contact with an agent that I would personally do business with. And the last one is, if you just simply learn something from the content we're putting out, or you get inspired to take action, I want to know, get you out of that spreadsheet. I'm on a mission to help 100 people. Until next time, see ya.